My kid is a teenager and my ex-wife is a nearly adult daughter. We were divorced 13 years ago and have equal custody of our children. Since we both spend equal time with the children and divide the expenses for everything, including extracurriculars, school, medical care, and dental care, neither of us pays child support. When my children were born, I created bank accounts for them, and I have saved money ever since. However, I was wounded at work around 8 years ago, and I received some money, which I sent into their accounts. In addition, I was given some money that I also deposited into their accounts when a relative passed away 4 years ago. Therefore, whether or not kids attend college, the money I save for them will be extremely beneficial to them in the future. Several years ago, my ex-wife got married again. She has a teenage stepdaughter. She and her spouse are parenting a young adolescent nephew of hers. She and her spouse have 2 children, a tiny child and a kindergartner. In our conversation, my ex-wife mentioned that she and her husband had informed all of their children that community college would be the most cost-effective choice for them and that they would receive every assistance possible, but that attending a more expensive university would be difficult for them. I assured her that I had saved a good amount for our kids, so they would have that choice if they wanted it. I told her that since I was looking after our kids, she didn't need to know, and that's why I hadn't told her sooner. A few days after our conversation, she contacted me and her spouse said they wanted me to pay our children's child support so they could put more money down for the future of their other children. I informed her that I would not be paying child support so she could provide for her other children. Her spouse informed me that I could always propose to divide the funds equally among all the kids. I told him that I would not be funding his children's college education. I informed them that my sole duty was to my kids. I informed them that I would be happy to take the kids more often if they wanted to save more money and spend more time at home with me. My ex-wife labeled me a terrible person and argued that I should have no trouble maintaining 50-50 and contributing financially to our kids' siblings' education expenses. I informed her that there was a day in another world when we had never broken up, and that day I had a duty to support her and her entire home. But we did. And she has to acknowledge that I and she are both equally accountable for our children. I feel like a crazy person for asking, but even though they both told me I was stupid, I had to know. Am I the stupid one? Not the fool. A 50-50 split eliminates child support. What a ridiculous idea that was made by them. Their intention is to trick you into supporting their children. Remain still. Hold on. Why should you foot the bill for their children? It makes logical that you have made plans for the future of your kids. Imagine asking her for a favor like this if the positions were reversed. She would never consent to such a situation, in my opinion. And you requested such a favor from her. She would never consent to such a situation, in my opinion. That is, their boldness. Yes, those really are jokes. Do the cash belong to your child? If so, please update it right away since they originally attempted to trick you into paying. Your children are the next people they'll try to persuade to share with their step-siblings. Alter it right away, or else they'll try to coerce them into telling their step-siblings. Before you know it, they'll try to guilt-trip you. I worked as a banker for a while, so I have personal experience with how people handle money. It's not implausible that a mother would take her children to the bank and empty their accounts. Yes, but only for them, not for Op and his children. Is it a no-brainer? Her spouse bringing it up even astounds me. How humiliating. Your ex doesn't have to contribute money to your child's college education, even if she should, because you already have enough for it. Save cash for her other children as a result. Yes, you are not insane. She possesses nerve. and her spouse much more so when he requests funds for their own children. Some folks, I promise. Give a lawyer a call. A 50-50 split does not always imply that no child support is due. It is feasible that you should have been paying child support, but she hasn't held you to it previously. If there is a significant wage gap between you and if she took a temporary break from her profession to raise your children, let's say she can prove that you could end up having to pay in court, along with potential back support for the previous 13 years. Hence, I believe you should think about whether your ex would win in court if they brought a lawsuit over this instead of judging you as a fool. Additionally, if the chances are favorable, it can be less expensive to pay child support willingly for the next 3 years. Although my ex and I don't get along well, we still co-parent. In order to preserve their relationship with his parents, I still bring my kids over to their home. Due to his distance, he doesn't get to see his parents very often. As a nurse, I work night shifts 3 times a week starting at 7 o'clock until 11 in the morning, Monday through Wednesday. My little girl, who is in elementary school, will be with me from Wednesday to Saturday. On Sunday, she will travel to her dad's. I will attempt to be quick because this debate stemmed from 2 different ones. Firstly, American Girl dolls are my daughter's favorite. Since she was 5, I have been purchasing them for her. We live in the UK. However, I haven't found anything that she is as fond of yet. The issue is, they're also liked by my ex's partner's daughter. Simply put, they are unaffordable. I spent about $400 on a set and 1 doll this year. They thus say I'm doing it to cause friction. I'm not. Their kid was born lately, and my ex's partner was ill. Thus, he was taking care of the infant. I had been sleeping for over an hour on Tuesday at approximately 12:30. They asked whether I would pick up my daughter over the phone and via text. I declined. And that evening, they continued to contact me, asking questions that I was unable to see. My ex's partner effectively told me, maybe I could be a mother instead of a part-time employee, when I picked up my kid. Maybe if she worked, her kid wouldn't try to take my daughter's dolls or Nintendo Switch, I told her. My in-laws texted me to ask if I could come visit. Maybe, I said, if I'm not too busy with my part-time motherhood. I replied when they inquired. They seemed to have become unhappy with my ex, which led to problems between them. He questioned why it isn't possible for us to simply be understanding of the children. However, since Wednesday, he claims his partner has a point. She's only here at 4 p.m. She wasn't serious, though. They just had a kid. And she's just unwell. Am I the foolish one? It probably doesn't matter how much I paid for the doll. But when I informed my ex, he decided to look it up on Google. Therefore, in my opinion, they would not have otherwise known. I advised him to Google it. And from what I can tell, they would not have found out otherwise. Not the fool. You are not a mum on the side. You're being a parent according to the existing plan. You just so happen to work non-traditional hours at your job. You would manage differently if your daughter were under your full-time custody. The dolls, American Girl ones, are an eyesore. Simply advise your daughter not to bring those specific dolls to the other house if she doesn't want to share with her step-sibling. She may play with them at your house instead. You didn't really need to pick up your daughter. If someone was infectious or required medical attention, things would be handled differently. It's also obvious that the spouse wasn't too ill to try to get into a fight with you the following day. It's also none of anyone's concern what you earn or spend on your daughter. I concur. Your ex shouldn't support your being in touch with his parents if he doesn't want you splashing tea on them. He must acknowledge that people will be aware of both your and his viewpoint if he leaves that door open. It's foolish to assume that a part-time mother with a severe cut wouldn't be able to travel about, even while this doesn't give you free rein to cause trouble. My 50-year-old sister, who considers herself an Instagram influencer, has a family that lives in a camper van. She moved into a camper in 2020 with her husband and their 4 children. They tour the entire country, homeschool the children, etc. We don't see them other than during their holiday visits. The reverse is true for my spouse and myself. We own a large, lovely home in Colorado with 4 children. The problem is that my sister and her family spent the night at our house on Thanksgiving. My son and daughter shared rooms with my sister's eldest male and female young adolescent twins. My niece became very irate with her mother for forcing her to live in a camper when she could have so much more space and not have to share with her brothers, and she and my sister had a heated quarrel early in the morning. Putting her in a camper when she could have so much more room and not have to share her brother's belongings with them. They can have more clothing, friends, and extracurricular activities in addition to sharing a common sleeping room. When I inquired about the situation, my sister informed me that there had been a disagreement for some time. Money is not a problem. They previously had a home that they sold for a huge profit. My sister enjoys living in a camper and has a job and trust fund. We proposed, in private to my sister, to take in my eldest niece after having a quick talk with my husband and kids. We could convert one of our additional guest rooms into a bedroom for her. The schools in our region are excellent. We would cover all of her expenses, etc. She declined right away, claiming to know what was in her daughter's best interests. Her siblings would be missed. We never brought it up again. My youngest child, a young girl in her teens, informed her relative about the offer. She was upset that her mother hadn't brought it up, but she was also quite thrilled. She threatened to never comply with her mother's wishes if she forced her to go back into the camper, telling my sister that it was unjust that her mother wasn't allowing her to experience a normal upbringing. Although I don't support such outbursts, I was able to persuade my sister since I could see where she was coming from. Her twin brother also wanted to stay after learning the truth. My sister questioned him about what she would do in their absence, how she would take care of her younger siblings, the missed family vacations, and other things. However, my nephew remained unchanged. 3 weeks ago was the conclusion of the trial period that we had agreed upon. When my sister returned, she fully anticipated that her children would want to accompany her, but they steadfastly refused to even enter the camper. My sister is furious right now. She stated that I was a terrible sister for treating her this way and that I should have made them want to move in with her. She suggested that I throw them out, but I declined. When her kids became weary of maximalism, she urged them not to expect her to come back for them, calling me a huge idiot. Her children are now depressed, but they refuse to go, and I fear that I have damaged my bond with my sister. Am I the foolish one? Correct. My sister has signed a temporary guardianship document for us. After they departed, her husband came over, and we completed the power of attorney paperwork, obtained the supplies we needed to send the kids to school, etc. He then brought the documents back and had her sign them, so we should be good to go. In addition, my brother, who practices law, assisted us with the forms. Not the fool. Your sister comes out as rather insane and self-centered. Homelessness is exalted in camper life. Her children disagree with her desire to live this way. They require education, a secure home, friends, and family. Most children are not able to live like nomads. At the end of the day, you're supporting your nephew and niece. You have no obligation to your sister and are only expected to assist the children. Yes, your connection with her has been strained, But the well-being of these children is more important than that relationship. The term glorified is crucial. I understand. It's a great camper. But part of being homeless is basically living on constant motion and having no permanent place to live. To put it another way, it's a subtle kind of child abuse. Structure and possibilities like friends, athletics, and extracurricular activities are being denied to the children. Your sister is a conceited individual. A decent parent would never prioritize their needs and wishes over their children's. This is what she is doing. My sister questioned him how she was going to take care of the younger siblings in their absence and what she was expected to do without them. Parentification is implied here, which is detrimental to the twins. If they're not professional babysitters, they should be living the life of an adolescent and helping out with younger siblings and children only a few hours a week. The camper was an awful place for the kids to live. Given the slightest chance, they would naturally want to go away. My roommate Helen, also 22, and I, a 22-year-old woman, share a 2-bedroom flat. Helen had invited her parents to spend her birthday in the flat a few days earlier. In order to allow her and her parents' privacy, she requested if I may leave the flat. No, I said. We got into a fight. On her birthday, she requested that I honor her desires, but I broke up the fight and headed to school. As I was leaving the room, I noticed that her parents had come in with 3 large suitcases. When I attempt to get into my room when I return at 11, Helen stops me right away. "What's up, may I ask?" She then tells me, "You can't go in my room. My folks are in bed." Then gestures to the couch, saying, "I have your pillow and blanket. You can spend the night there." I inquire if she was serious, literally picking my jaw up off the floor. Then let her know that her parents must go immediately since I'm sleeping in my room. Helen shouts at me for being really impolite and disrespectful to her parents and her birthday as I begin to beat on the door when her mother appears wearing a robe. She first asks what's going on before inquiring as to whether or not I've been drinking and if it's legal for me to be drinking at this age. You get the idea. I give her the order to leave my room with her spouse. Helen tells me that her parents should get some rest because they came a long way to be with her. I suggest to her that perhaps they ought to get a damn motel. Her mother continues then on how impolite I was. When the fight gets heated, she tries to phone the landlord and informs them that their daughter's drunken flatmate is making a noise while they're trying to go to sleep. She continues by threatening to report any disruption to the police. Helen's father exits and demands silence. Shortly after, the landlord calls to find out what's going on, and Helen and her mother start complaining about me. I become really angry and scare them, telling them I'm mentally unstable, that I've been drinking, and proposing I should be thrown out. The landlord then informs Helen and her mother that following their actions, they have to vacate the entire flat and that I am a legitimate renter. After an argument between Helen and her parents and the landlord, he threatens them with the police. Helen is sobbing and pleading with me to let her parents remain, so they start getting ready to go. To cut a long tale short, they were ejected at midnight. Helen let it all out on me, accusing me of ruining her birthday, forcing her parents to travel in the middle of the night, and leaving them stranded in a strange place. They intended to remain over the weekend, so I also derailed her plans. I walked inside my room and closed the door. After that, Helen stopped speaking with me, and her college friends made fun of me for causing such a stir. Am I the foolish one? Not the fool. My gosh, what a mess. Why they couldn't just go to sleep in her room is beyond me. Her parents are these people. It's supposed to be her on the couch. Helen is insane, as are her parents. It's urgent for you to move out or find a new flatmate, girl. Helen has to go or you. You are in this room. Why were her parents unable to secure a hotel room? She is not entitled to the place you pay rent for just because it is her birthday. If she ever plays this prank on you or her parents, don't get into arguments with them. Make an instant police call. I'm very happy that your landlord upheld the fact that your room is your personal place that you paid for and refused to put up with Helen's extreme entitlement. Your friends that you lost as a result of this either told you a greatly skewed version of events or weren't really your pals in the first place, or both. Seize the chance to express gratitude to the universe for removing the clutter and make new acquaintances that value and respect you as a person. For the time being, if your bedroom door isn't already locked, ask the landlord whether you may install one. Considering how Helen's parents have responded to her behavior, you can't really expect her to respect your personal space, but there may be something they're ready to do. My dad enjoys making jokes about people, and if you get upset with him, he'll tell you're just a baby with no sense of humor. My father detests reading directions as well. I purchased him a set of computer-controlled Christmas lights last year. They're very awesome. Each LED may be individually controlled, and patterns can be applied to them. You may add lights to your tree or style it to resemble a candy cane. It's a very clever system. I gave my dad instructions on how to operate the lights after installing the app on his phone. Making it appear as though one of the lights is broken is another option. While every other light functions flawlessly, you may select one and make it appear as though it is shorting out. It cycles through all the lights, flickering, going off, and then randomly coming back on. My dad is going wild about it. It's the third time he's untied them from the tree. He arranges them first and makes an effort to identify which light it is. However, they switch back to their original configuration and cycle through the colors when he unplugs them. My mother has observed that the lights only go out when I'm present. She then inquired as to what I was doing. I told the truth. Laughing, she requested me to demonstrate the process for her so my dad wouldn't know I was playing a practical joke on him. Despite my husband's opinion that I'm being petty and something of a jerk to my father, he also wants me to stop because he has endured my father's jokes for more than 5 years. After enduring his jokes about my thin skin for a lifetime, I feel somewhat guilty about it but also validated. Am I the foolish one? You're not the fool, and you're brilliant. When your mother found out what you were doing, I believed you were busted. I'm very glad she participated. Here, she really is the hero. Your dad can take it, if he can dish it out. Tell your mom how wonderful she is. Please, I am a prankster, but pranks are the worst. He's able to handle it. Tell your mom how wonderful she is. Please, jokes are the worst. But because he's one himself, I think he deserves it. Yes, typically I would say that's a little harsh. But this dad of his has it coming to him. If you don't laugh at his jokes, you can't take them seriously. When he solves it, let us know. Is he going to take it in good humor? Or is he going to have a complete meltdown? Don't be a baby. Make sure you have it ready and waiting as well. Hee hee.